Hey, hi Hari, hi Abhishek. Welcome to the podcast. I'm very,
Hi.
very happy to have you here. This is one of my first recordings with men, I think. I hope you guys bring me luck.
We'll try.
uh, Hari, why don't you please tell us a little bit about you?
Thanks, Amira. So, my name is Hariprasad. Currently, I'm based out of Hyderabad, and I'm the founder of Yogashala and Zenze Leadership. So, I'm a practicing facilitator, coach, and yoga therapist. Most of my time gets spent either teaching one-on-one personalized yoga practices, or I enjoy curating wellness experiences, yoga-based retreats. Uh, And the other part of my work is, of course, executive coaching, leadership development, and creating programs that can work with professionals and teams. That's what I do.
Interesting. Hari, you didn't mention you do tarot.
Yeah, that's my hobby slash side hustle. Yeah.
That's such a wide range. Abhishek, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thank you for having me, Hamira. Thank you, Hari, for sharing. I'm also based out of Hyderabad, and I'm happy to be here. And a little bit about myself is I was a journalist with Times of India, and right now I'm working in another field. And I was also a journalist with Deccan Chronicle, and I'm someone who loves going for retreats. So I hope I can bring some value to this discussion. Um, yeah.
Thanks for that, Abhishek. Go Hyderabad. All three of us are from the city, man. So let's dive into the retreat this September, right, Hari?
That's right. It's
Yeah, at least. So tell us more about the retreat. Tell us about the location.
yeah. So, this is the retreat is called the Leela retreat, and it's one of my experiments integrating yoga practices with um, theater, interactive theater, and Lego serious play, which is a method of working with oneself through Lego bricks. And
Wow.
I've done few workshops around this theme earlier, but this time around, I thought let me do a full-fledged retreat. And so this is happening in Ladakh, in the Leh village, at a beautiful heritage house called Nimmu. It's a very antique conservation project, which is they undertook, and it was launched for the public in 2014. So when I first saw this place 1 year back, and I got very rave reviews about it from other yoga teachers who have curated programs here, as well as participants. And when I looked at the pictures, it did feel like really a great location for a contemplative unwinding for participants. And so, yeah, that is where the retreat is happening. It's from September 27 to October 3. So it's like a week-long retreat.
That's a lot of time to plan ahead. Abhishek, have you been to Leh? Do you know of this place? Do you have any questions about some of the things Hari mentioned about the retreat?
Yeah, so I have been to Leh, and it's one of the most beautiful places I know. To have a retreat, I think. And for Hari, yeah, I have a couple of questions. His retreat, just what I've heard about the Lego building blocks and how we can integrate that, for personal development has piqued my curiosity. So I'm definitely curious about because I've never heard of this before from anyone, or I've gone to a couple of yoga retreats myself, but this is the first time I'm hearing about this concept. So I'd be very thrilled to know a little bit more if you can, enlighten us.
Hari, this is your own method that you created, right?
So Lego serious play is a method that is already existing.
Okay.
It is something which was developed by the Lego company around 2000, but primarily in the context of organizational development and team coaching. And so there are many applications of Lego serious play in when it comes to helping teams make inclusive decisions, to envision business scenarios. How do you brainstorm for what is the plan ahead for the next few years or months? These are many wide range of applications. But when I got trained in this method last year, one of my own interest areas in general is to explore how do one integrate ideas and practices from different fields in the context of self-reflection. So I've already earlier worked with musicians on creating a series of programs called Raga Yoga, where we explored different ragas of Indian classical music. And through that, explored the psyche and the patterns through art and music, and then connecting it to Yoga Sutras. I worked with writers on exploring poetry and how through poetry you can articulate your evocations and strong things that get evoked when you experience theater and self-reflection. So this was one thing which I felt Lego Serious Play is very much able to do, because the process of Lego Serious Play enables one to work with their hands in creating mental models of different levels of inner structures, starting with your own identity models to how you hold certain ideas in your mind. And the beauty of the process is that, and Lego Serious Play seriously speaks about the fact that when you try to articulate something through words or writing, your cognitive mind interferes with it. Whereas when you work with your hands, the hands hold, the fingertips has a lot more access to your experiential wisdom than your cognitive mind. So there's a lot of unconscious mind at play when you work with the bricks. And then, of course, I connected it to some of the Antaranga yoga or the inner work through yoga processes that I'm familiar with, so that what gets evoked and built through the Lego bricks, we segue it into contemplative dialogues and processes to unpack what it means for the person. So I call it Leela because Leela, I think in Sanskrit, closely relates to the idea of a serious play, like Krishna Leela, for example.
I was about to ask, why did you name your retreat Leela? You read my mind.
Yeah.
So I didn't know that this was designed by the company Lego. I thought this is, or that it was used in organizational development context. Like there's a lot more credibility, or examples of possibly how it was used in organizations. That's cool. Can you tell us a little bit about there's something about Viniyoga which I'm not aware about. I mean, even if I say so myself, I've been practicing yoga for like several years now and know like some of the terms that are associated with the practice, right? But I haven't heard about what Viniyoga is, and is it similar to, asanas and physical yoga, or is it more like inner work kind of
Yeah,
yoga?
so it is Viniyoga. Viniyoga means it's not a style of yoga, to be clear. It is Vini yoga just means that Visheshena yoga. V means to modify, to qualify. So the idea of a Vini yoga is you create a practice that is appropriate to the needs and the abilities of the person or the group. But traditionally, yoga was taught by looking at who is receiving the practice. So when you adapt the practice to where the student is and start from that level, it can be broadly called Viniyoga because you're adapting to the ability of the person. So in a retreat context, in a one-on-one context, it will be more like you do a detailed consultation and you start with what's the short-term goal, long-term goal of this person, and then take it step by step. But in a retreat context, when there's a specific theme for the retreat, I look at the group and I look at the theme and I design a practice which is appropriate for each person in the group. So while there is a general practice, it also has a lot of modifications and variations to cater to the needs of each person within the same group. So that is one defining quality of Viniyoga.
So it's more personalized.
Correct.
I was about to say, yeah.
It's bespoke
It
yoga.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? That, like Hari mentioned, on a one-on-one situation, I think it'd be easy to adapt it to one single person, but to adapt it to a group and then personalize it on an individual basis is really cool. Abhishek, have you done any yoga retreats or even outside a retreat? Is that something like a personalized yoga experience? Is that something you'd want to do?
Yeah, I'd love to. It's definitely piqued my interest because it's personalized. So, it's going to be more concentrating on maybe like some parts of me, than another yoga retreat, which is more standardized, like Hari said. And yeah, I have done like I did a yoga retreat in Goa in 2020, which was a lot of fun. It was a 10-day yoga retreat in a off the grid property. So there was no power, no electricity, no distractions, no Wi-Fi. That was fun, going back to nature. And then I did two retreats again around Bombay with a breatharian. So a breatharian is someone who just lives on breath and conserves their own energy and not on food, uh, not even on raw veggies, not even on juices. So that was also a very unique experience where I had the privilege to live very closely and observe um, a completely different reality of existence, especially when we are in Hyderabad and cities where we have Swiggy and Zomato and all these distractions on our fingertips. But that was unique, and I think retreats give us a break, like a reset that we need from time to time in a year. Because we're so jaded with the work we do, the kind of air we breathe, the kind of foods we have in the city. And, just a retreat is like a good reset that, our soul needs from time to time, especially when it's in a new place, you meet new people, you network, you meet some amazing, beautiful human beings in a retreat. And then, uh, you forge some amazing friendships that you take back. So it's not just the knowledge that you get, you meet beautiful people, you form these brilliant bonds that you go back after the retreat and they continue. So I've made some amazing friends in some of these retreats, and we still keep in touch. So it's I think like I would totally recommend that everyone should take a retreat once in a while, just to reset.
I think like annually one retreat should be like
Yeah,
a civil rule that everybody
yeah,
should just go to a retreat once a year and like take care of themselves. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah.
Uh, the thing you mentioned about making friends or connecting with people. Hari, is there any kind of like bonding activity or like in the previous retreats that you've done? How do people connect with each other?
Yeah, I think what both of you are sharing is very true, because beyond the learning agenda or self-reflection part, the main pull of a retreat is the opportunity to connect with like-minded people. And
Yeah,
oftentimes, stranger groups come together. Maybe one or two people might tag along as friends or family, but mostly it's a stranger group.
yeah,
And because each person is engaged in experiences which are so diverse, like usually my retreats will have a component of inner work. There'll be some hikes or treks, there'll be some tarot, there'll be some activities, storytelling. So that I think the diversity of a shared experience in such a short time
yeah,
creates very deep connections.
yeah,
And this is something which is very beautiful. And I think more and more, what I have heard from participants themselves is that spaces where people can connect as persons are shrinking, because a lot of our current spaces that we occupy are very transactional spaces, whether at work. And so this is one space where there is no agenda of a transaction. And that kind of really helps people to experience something which is very refreshing and uh, nourishing.
No, I was just saying that's so true. You also like open up to people because there's this like-minded people who come together, and you're gonna stay in a place. You're out in nature. Just everything, all that just comes together so beautifully, and it's like a perfect setting to form these beautiful friendships with people, apart from attending the retreat and the main purpose that you're there for. And I just wanted to say, one time in Goa, I met someone in a past life regression, like a talk at a retreat, yoga retreat, a 1 day, 2 day yoga retreat, and we've become like the best of friends for like last 18 years, right? So yeah, and like I know his family. We come, whenever we travel together to other parts. So you never know whom you meet. You meet a lot of people, and some just stay back with you. So that's definitely one of the more beautiful, points about going to a retreat somewhere.
Another cool thing that happens is it opens up your mind a little bit to like people from other demographies or like, other cities or other geographies and perspectives that you wouldn't have known before and all of that, which is really cool. I think you come out a slightly evolved or grown person, if I can. At least that's what happened to me. You know what? Here's a funny story. I know somebody, a couple who met like at a retreat and then like got together and got
Okay.
married.
Wow, they got married.
Here's a here's the thing for single people. Go on retreats and find somebody like-minded. It's hard
What?
dating on dating apps. Go to retreats and find somebody like-minded.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's good advice. At least you'll find someone like-minded.
Hari, I was really curious about the interactive play part that you mentioned in your brochure. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
So the interactive theater is mainly some of the theater games which form part of theater methodology called theater of the oppressed. It's a Latin American theater form, but it just is a collection of theater games um, which are very fun to do actually, because as pairs and as groups you can engage in it. But it also has a lot of layers of meanings which you can unpack depending upon the context. So one of the things I've been working with after having received training in the method is to see how you can explore different ideas in yoga. Let's say the idea of relationship, the idea of self, all these things through, or your own behavioral patterns through different games, and then taking it to a space of dialoguing around what happened to you when you engaged in the game. So TO is about that, where we engage as group in pairs, where we play games which are theater based and then unpack it through dialogues. So it's a lot of fun.
It does sound like fun. Do I, like, for somebody who's curious, do they need to have some kind of theater knowledge or have spent any kind of,
No,
theater training or something like that? Or
no,
I can be like a total
of
newbie
course.
in this case.
Yeah. So I design my retreats for a person with absolutely no background in any of these things. So it's not required for you to have any prior knowledge of yoga or theater or anything else to be part of it. So anybody can enjoy and take part in it. It's not a thing which needs that kind of a prerequisite.
Abhi, have you done anything like that, like interactive theater, or did you know about this? I didn't know about theater of the oppressed. Like that sounds super interesting to me. I want
Yeah.
to go Google about it after our call.
No, I haven't. I mean, the closest I have. Sorry. Yeah, the closest I have done to something like this was a clown workshop in a yoga festival, where there was this person who was a trained clown. I think there are only two colleges in the world that teach you how to be a clown, for circuses. And it's about, it came down to like we wear masks every day and a clown wears a mask. And it's how you shed these masks out. That's the closest, but nothing close to theater. No.
That's interesting. I didn't know that there were colleges that train you how to be a clown. That is cool.
They're just two in the world. But so Hari, I wanted to ask you, you're doing this in Leh. I mean, haven't been there. It's such a beautiful setting, for a retreat. I think So if you can tell us a little bit about why you chose Leh, Ladakh, this idyllic setting out of the world in the Himalayas.
Yeah, so I have a thing for the mountains. So most of my retreats have been around the Himalayas, starting with Uttarkashi, Dharamshala, Sikkim, Meghalaya, Kashmir. I've done one. So I think Leh Ladakh has been in my mind for a long time. I was just looking for the right kind of space for this kind of a program. So when I came across Nimmu, I felt this is like perfect. And I generally like to take small groups. So usually my typical retreats don't exceed 15 people. And here the capacity is only 10 at the venue. So we'll have a small group of 10. So yeah, so the pull of the is of course the Himalayas. Second is I think it's a different feel to experience something like a cold desert like Leh Ladakh, along with all its cultural aspects of the Buddhism and usually what happens is a lot of times we engage in a lot of village walks and getting to know the locals through our free times in the afternoon or evening. So each location has a different vibe and culture. So I think for me, it's also a way of learning about a part of my own land and heritage and see what's happening. And I think Ladakh at this point is also on a very big threshold, partly because of the influx of tourism and a lot of the climate change is having a direct impact on that ecosystem. So I think it's also a way for people to be aware firsthand of what's happening to these fragile spaces also.
Yeah, that's true. You mentioned earlier that mountains. You're a mountain person, and you've done a lot of retreats in mountains. I've heard a lot of people say this mountains like slow you down. Also, like they're not very easy to, like, let's say, drive through. You can't like zoom through on a ghat road or whatever. Like they slow you down and take you a little more inside as opposed to, let's say, you're just focused on the outside. That way I think mountains are a great place to just go for a retreat and reflect on the inner side. Since you mentioned there are going to be like some trek walks, you go meet people, the locals, and all of that. I also want to know: is it going to be like is the retreat going to be super scheduled? Is it going to be slightly flexible? Will people have some time for their own to chill a little bit? Because a lot of inner work can be, slightly emotionally heavy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so there is going to be a lot of self time, but there's also a certain design because what I've realized is usually when people come for a retreat of this nature, partly people also come because there is a certain rhythm somebody has set, which is very refreshing, which you may not be able to follow on your own. So we
Yeah.
have a certain rhythm for each day where we start the day with a asana pranayama practice, have breakfast. Then we spend few hours in some theater-based workshop, which is self-reflective in nature. And post-lunch, it's relatively free. We have some short hikes and walks and sightseeing planned in the evenings. And then maybe an unwinding sharing session at the end. But in between time, usually what happens in my retreats is the group randomly decides that we'll do this or that, and then sometimes we do some tarot. So these are all things which don't have any structured time as such. We just see what's the energy of the group and we decide something to work with. So yeah, so a lot of it's a combination of partly structured, but mostly also so
Got it.
yeah.
I think that's a nice balance. Like you said, people do come for the flow that the retreat leader designs, and something that you can't do on your own. So post the retreat, is there any kind of follow-up work for them to, stick to some of the things that they have discovered or learned during the retreat? Because a lot of people say when they go on retreats, or even happens with me as well, when I come back to my like regular life, I find it a little difficult to, like, follow the practices and then eventually fall off the bandwagon. How do you sort of deal with that and stay on track with what you've learned at the retreat?
One of the things most people miss after a retreat is that bonding, connection, and the time for sharing. So one thing I offer is a space for sharing, where we connect as a community once a month, kind of a thing. But it's completely an individual choice. I don't say that, oh, you are also signing up for that, or you have to be there for that. That is not there, but it's a space it can be used. Now, the other thing which usually happens is the retreat offers a set of practices which people can take back to their lives. So if something critical or important opened up, or there is something that person wants to work individually, not as a group. So usually there's always the option of continuing engagement through yoga sessions or coaching sessions. And a lot of people do take it up if they feel the need for it. So these are things which I share on the final day, that how you can take forward the practice. And of course, when we are in the same city, we meet up, catch up for conversations. All that also happens.
That's nice. That's nice. Like there's some predetermined path for them to, or these community sessions that you mentioned, sharing sessions for them to stay in touch with what's. Did that happen with you, Abhishek? Uh,
Yeah, I
I
mean,
think, yeah.
yeah, for sure. When you go back, back to your deadlines, back to the hustle bustle and the rat race, of course, you kind of forget. But like I said, you make some friendships. That's something you take back, and I'm happy to know that, Hari is offering, like a follow-up space that people can, if they want to express themselves and be in touch. That's encouraging. One or two retreats that I've been to, what they did is they made WhatsApp groups, for everyone who attended. So it's like a small community. I know a lot of that puts a lot of people off also, because everyone's like, oh my God, one more WhatsApp group to be part of, because there's so many, right? You have
Yeah.
a family, you have a friends, apartment,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
But I mean, still, you can be in touch with everyone, and now and then there's some ways that you can, relive and at least keep you on the path for some time after you come back from a retreat.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's natural to go back into the grind, but these kind of tools help for sure.
Yeah, that sounds true. Uh, Going back to some of the things you mentioned earlier, Hari, about whether it's interactive theater or Lego series play, like you mentioned, these are all experiential activities, right? You're participating, you're with your hands, you're in, and that is a different experience than, let's say, reading or writing and all of that. In the previous workshops that you have done, or from what you anticipate for this, how does this is how immersive does the experience get, or
And I organize the experience in a way in which I like to experience something. And I don't like too much of theory and gyan. So when I organize, also I organize with all these methods, theater or Lego series play, are exploratory in nature. So I facilitate the space or curate the space, but the content and the learnings and the evocations are co-created by the participants and the whole group together, which makes it very personal and relevant for the group. While there's an underlying grammar to the program, but the actual energy and the content gets created by the group themselves. So that is something I enjoy doing. So so to answer your question, it's a very experiential, personalized, embodied experience for each person, and each person discovers what is relevant for them. It's not like a standard takeaway kind of a thing. There is nothing standard takeaway that I offer.
right?
But depending upon how each person brings themselves into the space, they discover something new for themselves.
Right. That's interesting. Abhishek, so how do you generally go look for a retreat? So even in this case, unless it's mostly through word of mouth, right? Like it's because I know
Yeah.
Hari and it came to you, but like otherwise, how does somebody who's looking for something like this find a retreat?
That's a good question. So basically, it's like you said, it's through reference that you come to know of someone organizing something, and word of mouth, that you probably come to know, because there are no, I mean, you don't really see ads of retreats and stuff so much out there.
Yeah.
And when it comes through someone, you kind of know that, okay, it might be good, right? I mean, it's not something you just find on the internet and then you're wondering that is it going to be good? It's not. So when one thing is word of mouth references, that kind of builds more trust. You're more
Yeah.
open to like finally take that leap and keep aside few days of your life, apply leave, book your tickets and end up there. So that definitely helps. But otherwise, I think in today's days, especially in India, a bit of a challenge. Like if I want to find out, say, a yoga retreat in a particular month that I want to do, it's not that easy, and you need to also. I mean, while there might be some options, it's a little tricky to pick out which one you want to go to, because there's no real space where you can probably drop reviews about how a retreat was held. you know so references do help, and that
Yeah.
kind of at least gives you some confidence.
So the ones that you have been to, did you go to them through references? Somebody told you about it. Yeah,
Yeah, mostly
yeah, that's
references. Yeah.
mostly the case. Yeah, you're right. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. Hari, based on like your previous retreats or the design for this retreat, who was like a good candidate to come on the retreat? Like, who would it help?
So I think anyone who is looking for a time out of their daily grind and routine, uh, this will offer a space for self-reflection. So I have myself seen many people come with no agenda as such. They just want to take some time out in a healthy way. So that's the basic minimum
Yeah,
need most people come with. And a lot of times people really don't know what is inner work or what is this theater thing or all that. So
yeah,
it helps because then you don't have any preconceived notions of how something is. And whatever comes up, it comes up very spontaneously, organically, and it becomes a very pleasant surprise. So I designed the experience not as a very intense one. It is a reflective one, of course, with the possibilities for discovery, but it's designed as a healthy vacation for professionals who want to take time out in a healthy way. And in the process, know something about themselves, something about a new culture, um, taste good food, have some new experiences, develop new connections like that.
Hmm. Someone who's mindful and has a travel enthusiasm, sort of. Did you say so?
Yeah, yeah, of course.
What do you think, Abhishek? Do you think who would like benefit, or who would it, or some of the retreats you have been on and how it has helped you and things like that, right?
Yeah, so for me, it's about going somewhere, of course, taking a break, like I said, just from the usual, and the will or the curiosity to learn something, which can add value to your life, be in terms of, just out of curiosity also. And, so that's been the driving force for me, just to learn something new that,
Yeah.
just out of curiosity.
Yeah, no, you're right. And what it ties back to what Hari was saying, right? A lot of these things in this retreat, they are new concepts to a lot of people. So there is an angle of intrigue that, oh, I want to see what this is. I haven't heard about this
Yeah.
ever before. Yeah, for sure. I think these discovery calls are a great way for people to find out more information. Like there's not as much as information that we can put on a website and say this is what it's going to be. Like I know way more about what all of it is now after talking to Hari than I must have looked at the website like at least easily some 15 times in the last 1 week. So yeah, this definitely helps. Hari, is there anything else you want to tell us about the retreat? How will people find more information about it? How can they get in touch with you if they have any questions? Where do they find out more information?
So I think the easiest way to find info online is to go to my website, Yogashala, yogasala.org. But of course, if there are any questions, queries, you can find my email and phone number on the site. You can
Okay.
reach out. There's also a brochure with all the details and itinerary of the daily schedule available. The only other maybe important bit to share would be there is an early bird discount for registrations until June 30th.
Okay.
So if you feel called and interested, it's always good to plan in advance. And so that's the and you're welcome.
What you said about if you feel called, like a lot of these retreats, all it is a calling that you feel. Like there's just like a primary, I want to go to this feeling, gut feeling that you get, and then you sort of follow through. Abhishek, you have any other questions for Hari about the retreat?
I actually
Are
do.
you
Thank
sorry?
you. I actually do. Thank you for
Go
asking.
for
So
it.
I was intrigued. What is so in your schedule? You have something called the social dreaming matrix. So if you can elaborate a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure. So one of the elements I'm integrating in the retreat is process work. Process work is a method of engaging a group in a reflective way, helping them look at their patterns and things. And social dreaming matrix is a idea or a concept which says that as a group, when you come together and spend time, there are certain group dynamics that will get reflected in the shared dreams and associations. So social dreaming metrics is a very fascinating process where we sit in the morning discussing what dreams came up for us. And as a person shares the dream, it triggers associations for others. And then we spend some time making sense of what each dream evoked in each person. And that actually speaks a lot about what the group is struggling with or what they're aspiring in that space in that moment. And so it's a very nice way of unpacking a group dynamic through the dreams of the group. So
It's very interesting.
Yeah, it's very unique. Like I'm not even close to it. I've ever heard anything. What you said earlier, like suddenly you're very curious about, oh, what is
so the best
this?
way to experience is to be part of the experience. So you can
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Abhishek, are you a convert? Are you planning to go to the retreat now?
Yeah, I'll have to check out my the discount and the dates. But yeah, there's something that I recently heard about, which is called Tibetan dreaming. It's like, interpretation of your dreams, and this is like kind of piqued my interest now with that. And somewhere close to Tibet, I mean, the closest we can go is Ladakh, I guess.
Yeah,
But yeah,
there's your calling.
yeah.
Great. Hey, that's all I have from my side. Do you guys have anything else to add?
No, just
Abhi?
Thanks for the conversation. I think it also helped me articulate the ideas and experiences around the retreat in a very coherent manner. So thanks for that.
Yeah. I definitely know like 80% more about the retreat now than I knew before this call. So this is very helpful.
I came to know of concepts I've never heard about.
Yeah, I know. So many
Like
new things. That's
yeah,
interesting. Fingers crossed I can make it. Fingers crossed Abhishek can make
and toes.
it. Yeah, and hey, great. This is a great conversation, guys. Thanks for taking out the time, both of you. I'll